I would like to announce our next speaker, Mr. David Wilde, Chief Technology Officer at Australia's Academic and Research Network, AARNet. Speaking on today's topic, Research and Education Networks, Looking to the Future. Over to you, David.
Yeah, thank you very much, Melvin, and thank you so much for the opportunity to join you here at your summit. We're locked down here in Melbourne, so I couldn't go anywhere anyhow. It's no problem for me to be up at this time of the night. So yeah, I thought I'd just share some thoughts, I suppose, on National Research Education Networks, NRENs, and how we can ensure that we're positioned for success going into the future, because we're in a challenging environment. And obviously, I'm coming from the perspective of working at an NREN, Australia's NREN. So the question that we're continually asking ourselves is, well, how are we differentiating ourselves? How are we different from the commercial telcos or ISPs, or for that matter, cloud providers these days? And so I'll just share some thoughts on how we answer those questions, and hopefully that will be useful for other NRENs on this call. So I'm just going to cover 3 or 4 little areas. And of course, security right down the bottom there is going to be a big new one, really, over the last several years compared to maybe the origins in the research and education space. So first off, we need to be entirely focused on delighting our users. Now, this seems like an obvious thing, simple but not easy, as the saying goes. It's really important though, and I realize that as NRENs, our funding structures are different. Some of us have got mandates, some of them monopolies, others like AARNet, for instance, we're paid by our customers, if you like. They pay a subscription and then pay for services, so very much more of a commercial model. In all cases, the key differentiator that I believe NRENs have is we really understand our users. And it's vital that we keep that front and center to everything we do. And our users are complex. You know, we have researchers, we have the teaching and learning piece, we have the corporate or the campus IT, and many NRENs also support other customer bases too, so schools, K-12 and so on. And their needs are very different, but we, compared to a commercial alternative, have got the best chance of really understanding and meeting their needs. And based on that, then, tailoring services to their needs. So since the origin of the internet, the origin of NRENs 30 plus years ago, we've done the first one really well. We build really fast networks and we deliver fantastic quality networks. We connect weird and wonderful places. So the SKA telescope here in Australia, for instance, or the Large Hadron Collider, the LHC in Europe. And we need to keep doing that. But more and more, we need to be presenting services that meet a different set of needs. So K-12 schools, they want a clean internet feed. They want their schools to be protected from the big bad internet. And in the previous talk there by Christian from OwnCloud, talking about moving data and compute and storage. And thank you for the great case study using AARNet. Our cloud store service has been a huge win based on OwnCloud. There are opportunities there, not to compete with the big cloud providers, but to provide some specific use cases that our user bases need. And I think one of the key backgrounds that the NREN or services that the NREN community has developed is making collaboration easy. So products like EduRoam, products like federated identity through access federations has been a huge win for the RNA community. I think we need to continue down that path, make it easy for our institutions to connect to HPC and into commercial cloud, because that's a complex world for many of these institutions. And finally, and this one's something that we take for granted, but based on a bunch of research we've done at AARNet in talking to our customers, that personalized support that we give as a network provider is something very easy to take for granted, but it's actually really key to delighting our customers. If you think about your own internet service provider at home, if you call them with a network problem, you'll get bounced from call center to help desk operator, and you never really feel a satisfying engagement with maybe the organization. Whereas at an NREN, certainly at AARNet, if our customer calls with a network down issue, they end up talking with the person who built the network and they can hear them fixing the problem live. That's something that I think is a really vital thing that we need to nurture and maintain somehow. So the second piece is, and again, it's another obvious piece here, but it's something that, that is very easy for us, as some of us not-for-profits and so on, to forget. We need to keep an eye on how we, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, are going to continue to be financially sustainable. Again, this is regardless of what your funding model is, whether you every 3 or 4 years get an injection of funding from a government, or like us, you continually selling services to your customers. Regardless of that, if you're not putting your long-term financial sustainability in forefront of mind, then that's a huge risk, I believe. One of the things that we've identified in why AARNet has been a success and why many NRENs are a success, we aggregate demand. So if you think about it, 30 years ago, the universities in Australia said, we all want a connection to the internet, and the internet was off in the United States. Now, they could have bought 30 little connections, and each of them employed one BGP routing engineer. They didn't. They created a single organization and aggregated the bandwidth and aggregated the recruitment power of BGP engineers, hence, and created AARNet. And that's often been the case in other countries too. I think the vital thing is that we continue to do that. So when we're looking for developing products and services, we try to see how can we aggregate demand. But the next step is that we as NRENs need to collaborate together to aggregate demand. And so Yves Poppe, who spoke earlier, talked about some of the subsea cable links internationally between countries, the ANA links, which cross from Europe to North America, CAE1 and AER, which we are more interested in connecting from Singapore up to Europe. These are collaborations where NRENs, as a group, maybe 5 or 6 NRENs, can purchase greater bandwidth in a single chunk than they would be able to individually. Other examples are Géant, for instance, going out to the market to negotiate a better deal with cloud providers, or a bunch of us negotiated an egress waiver with cloud providers by presenting United Front. And then finally, I think there's a huge opportunity for us as NRENs to co-develop services together. If we've delivered a DDoS mitigation service, very easy to copy and paste that into another NREN. Now, this is an initial point here I wanted to dwell on a moment here, because it's something that AARNet, partly just because of our geographical positioning, is proved to be really vital. Owning the underlying infrastructure has been key to our long-term success. By that I mean actually putting fiber into the ground and owning it. And then secondly, putting subsea cables under the ocean and owning it. Now, as I say, it could be geographical. At AARNet, we have to cover very wide open spaces within Australia and to reach the outside world. Other countries, you can just go to the market and buy services. But essentially, the principle here is to get from our backbone to a university, that campus isn't going to move. So if we spend a chunk of money now to put fiber in, then the ongoing costs are very, very low. And so that principle works across our network. So we prefer to own the subsea cable or the fiber. If we can't get that, take spectrum. If we can't get that, take wavelengths. And only that, at that point, if we can't get that, go with managed services. That's proved to be a fantastic long-term model for us. To give you an example, this is a picture of our international network. So, and I won't dwell on some of the paths off to the United States. They're an older model where we basically bought the connections ourselves. But to talk through that model that I just mentioned, these light blue lines, the Indigo cable system, we're a partner of a consortium there with Google, Telstra, Optus, Singtel, and a couple of others. We actually are a part owner of that cable system. We can light it with the electronics, the transponders that we want, and upgrade the bandwidth as we wish to. And this yellow one up to Guam is another case there. A similar example then, so the CAE1 link here, London to Singapore, and the AER ring encompassing it, that there is a group of NRENs collaborating to buy 100 gig circuits. So it's not as ideal as owning the spectrum or the infrastructure, but it's way more cost efficient. And so all of the links that we're looking at now, we're looking at that model. Then the final piece that I wanted to touch on really is, and this is going to be almost a make or break situation for NRENs, I think, for the first 30 years of their existence. Security wasn't really built into what we do. We're all about open collaboration, making research open and free and so on. That's no longer the case by any means. Yes, make research open, but you need to be confident that it's that integrity is maintained, and for sensitive research that it's secured, and that your intellectual property is secured, and that your infrastructure and platforms are secure. So whatever you're doing now as an NREN, I can guarantee you is not enough. Our networks and systems, your networks and systems are a target. Your institutions are carrying an incredible wealth of knowledge, intellectual property, and we aggregate that. It's for a bad actor attacking our networks to get access to that is an obvious target. So protect yourself. You need to have dedicated people who are working on this with expertise. And there's an opportunity potential for a number of NRENs to collaborate on a shared CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, or equivalent. I guess once you get beyond that point, though, protecting our institutions that connect, we're actually in a really great position. We can leverage the network, put in place manners, and I know Kevin Maynell was talking earlier about that, run DDoS mitigation services, and even potentially block malicious traffic, command control traffic at our borders. So there are opportunities here. And moving into the future, working with our campuses. So at AARNet, we've kicked off a managed SOC service. We're sharing cyber threat intelligence with other NRENs. Just had an announcement about sharing that with Britain, Canada, and the United States. And then just, my advice would be to be really exploring the opportunities. Your position central to a whole bunch of universities in terms of coordinating and providing those centralized shared services. And the final opportunity here really is we're in a fantastic position to become a trusted partner. So when I started off this talk talking about how do you differentiate yourself from a commercial telco or provider, well, we're in that position in the case of AARNet. We're owned by the university, so they innately trust us. So be trusted with your customers, act as maybe an objective go-between between them, with government, and finally, we need to be doing this with each other. So, looking ahead, it sounds like a fair bit of doom and gloom there. There are some challenges ahead. Are we going to find the commercial telcos are racing to the bottom on price? Are we going to find that the big cloud providers are going to take over all of the data we're holding? Is security going to be something that we challenge we don't surmount? I don't think so. I think actually, if I look forward 3, 5, 10 years, I can imagine that there's a real opportunity for NRENs to band together. I've took the liberty of including the two on the further side of the world from each other, to create a secure, high bandwidth, very specialized services enclave, where the big bad internet is somewhere out there, and the bulk of our services actually end up being delivered for researchers or for our institutions, for the sector, by the sector, and we're delivering a unified and secure set of services to our customers. This I think, if we don't achieve this, then yeah, we're really under threat. But the opportunity is there for us to achieve. That's it from me. Thank you very much. Hopefully, Melwyn, that we're getting you a little bit back further on track here with timing. If any of you would like to reach out or have any questions, my email address is here. Happy to hear from you and talk with you further.
Thank you, David, for your presentation. And yes, if attendees would like to ask a question, there's an email there, or you can email it to us and we'll pass it on to you. So
absolutely.
You have a fantastic evening ahead.
Thank you.